Hey there, welcome into the Maybe I'm the Crazy One podcast, and I'm your host, Alex Chandler. Never being one to share a take with anyone that I know, I figure I'd start taking down my ideas and sharing them with you here. Every week, we will explore new parts of the sports world, and I'll give you my viewpoints. Maybe I'm a genius, or maybe I'm just crazy. Tune in with me and find out for yourself. What up, guys, and welcome into episode 7 of Maybe I'm the Crazy One podcast. I'm your host, Alex Chandler. Man, we've had a really great week this week. A lot of great shows. If you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to them, I'd recommend you go do it. We're going to talk about some things that we talked about last episode with the Madden rankings. We'll actually start there today. Then I want to get into some other topics, not necessarily involving the sports game, but sports themselves and alternate jerseys, and the fact that, like MLS has this really weird alternate jersey rule, and then with all of the new helmets coming out recently in the NFL, I kind of wanted to talk about my views on alternate jerseys because I think we don't have enough of it, honestly. Then we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of NBA topics today. We're going to talk about Russell Westbrook and the weird week of news that we've gotten from the Russell Westbrook camp. It's been just a really weird week, and I kind of want to dissect it all and kind of see what I think it means, truly, and kind of where we go from here with the Lakers and Westbrook himself. And then lastly, as we talked about in the last episode and as we have for the last few episodes, we are going to be breaking down the AFC East today. And I'm going to let you know there might be a new king in the East. Before I get to that, though, I want to remind everybody that we are going to be doing a special appearance with KC Mito Gamer. Again, that is the gamer KC Mito, KCMITO. Also goes by KC Mito 913. Go ahead and look him up on all your socials. Go ahead and give him a great follow. We're going to be joining him to play some games, talk some sports here in a few weeks. Once I have more details on that again, I will share that with you. Additionally, I have news on we will have a debate partner at the end of next week. So that would be episode 9, I believe. And so we will be having our first live debate forum on the show. We're going to go over a couple NBA topics, and then I'm going to be convinced, I guess is the right word to use here, to go ahead and partake in some sporting action that I don't typically do. So we'll see if my debate partner's able to persuade me in anything that we talk about. But that's going to be a fun episode. Again, that will be next week. And lastly, I want to give a special shout out to my brother's soccer team. His soccer team, KCA Galacticos 06B, is in the semifinals in the national tournament down in Orlando. So good job, boys of Galacticos. Go ahead and bring home a trophy. You guys have played hard this season. You guys have earned your spot in the semifinals now. Now go. You got 2 games to go. I believe in you guys. You guys should be able to do that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and kick it off our show. We're going to start, like I said, with our Madden 23 rankings and how we feel. These rankings are interesting. Not because they're necessarily terrible, right? But they're so interesting. So we've gotten the rest of them. I know on Tuesday we discussed wide receivers and tight ends. And since then we have gotten the rest of them. So inside, outside linebackers, defensive linemen, both inside, interior, and exterior, offensive linemen, all of it, running backs, quarterbacks, etc. We have them all. And there's been some interesting players that fell out, which makes sense, like Brandon Brooks, who was hurt, Jason Kelsey, who's like 1 billion years old now for the offensive line. Then there were some more questionable ones, like Xavier Howard fell out. He was 6th last year, and now he's not in the top 10. while some curious decisions to keep some players in, like Stephon Gilmore, who also had some injury concerns and didn't play all the season last year, got to only go down from 2 to 6. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of my biggest snubs, I guess, as well as question some of the rankings. Because there's some players that weren't snubbed, per se. Like, they made their rankings pretty high and their ratings pretty high. But I have a problem with some of the smaller minutiae. And so I'm going to go through some of that right now with you. But we got to start with an actual snub. Guys, Minkah Fitzpatrick is the best safety in the league, and it's not even close. How is he not even in the top 10? I could argue, you could argue with me, Tyrann Mathieu. Yeah, sure, he deserves to be a top flight safety and rated high and be top 3 safety in the league. You could argue with me, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer for the Bills are great safeties. Justin Simmons, excellent safety. Derwin James, excellent safety. They're not better than Minkah. And I know there's going to be a lot of crying over TJ Watt being only a 96 and Myles Garrett being a 99, but I think that's right. I think Myles is about 3 points higher than TJ, and so if Myles is a 99, then TJ would be a 96. I think TJ's been helped out a lot by having a great defense in front of him, and Myles has been consistent the way that he has been, but, part of the reason that TJ is because he also has somebody like Minkah. And so if one of them is being hurt by the other one, that's fine. But Minkah should have at least been a top 10 player on this list, and I have no idea why he wouldn't be. Another one, this is somebody who made the list, but I don't understand why he's below some of the people he's below, and that's Joey Bosa. And so Joey Bosa was rated a 91, I believe. That was below, 1 point below, by the way, Khalil Mack and Von Miller. And at this point, and I know I've spoken about Von Miller, and we'll get to it a little bit later as well, but is Von Miller really worth a 92 overall rating? I know he's a great player. He's an all-time great player, but I don't know if he's a 92 still. 88, sure. It's really interesting because I remember a time in Madden when older players couldn't have anything above a 90, let alone, older players now these days, like Tom Brady, for example, being a 97. They don't care. They're just saying, hey, we're going to give whatever rating to whomever, and you guys got to deal with it. And I don't know. I think a rating means something. I think you earn these ratings. And I think Joey Bosa has earned that rating. And I don't think it's a legacy award. And I think that's a lot of what Khalil Mack's is that there's kind of some projection there that because he's now with Joey Bosa, he's going to be great again. But who's to say that? Khalil Mack's had some pretty average seasons the last couple years after the first year after the Raider trade. And I know he was great with the Raiders, and so, moving him back to the AFC West may be something of, familiar territory for him, and he does well. But again, that doesn't mean he's better than Joey Bosa. I think Joey Bosa is an excellent player and deserves to be rated a little bit higher. Another guy that I felt like should have been rated a little bit higher, which would have ultimately increased his ranking, was Darius Leonard. Now, Darius has been in the league for a few years now, but he's been an All-Pro multiple times and been to the Pro Bowl every year as an undrafted player. And Darius deserves his flowers and his recognition as well. And while the players ahead of him are great players still, like he went from 6th to 5th, I think he belongs in that discussion for best middle linebackers or interior linebacker with your Fred Warners, with your Bobby Wagners, your Demario Davises. And you can say, he's in that conversation if he's 5th, and those guys, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. No, he deserves to be firmly planted in there. I think he should have been a 93, which would have put him at 2nd overall. Instead, he was a 91, which put him at 5th. And that's how close these things are. But I think there's some problems with Darius Leonard not being at least in the top 3, as it's been the case with his, end of the season voting the last multiple years. He's he's been in that top 3 in terms of like performance and production from the position. So if he's performing and producing the way that he's expected to, why would we not provide him that ranking as well? I don't know. I don't make these decisions. I'm not the one that, makes the ratings for Madden. If I was, these would be a little bit different, and this is one of them, but hey, that is what it is. And the last one I want to know is, how is your rushing champion from last year not at least tied for the best rating in the game? Like, Jonathan Taylor has been disrespected his entire career. When he was at Wisconsin, it was that he was in a running system, so, that's the reason he was. Then when he was drafted, that's the reason he was as successful as he was. Then when he was drafted, it was, well, he's a Wisconsin guy, they don't produce anything. And now that he's produced something, we're like, well, he was expected to do that, and so that's not really that great. We saw Derrick Henry rush for 2,000 yards 2 years ago. Okay. My guy Jonathan Taylor's in his second year in his career. Not only does the youth provide and lend to the fact that he's going to do that, his on-field production has provided and lended to the fact that he's going to produce this way. Jonathan Taylor was a 95 in these rankings. He should have been at least a 97. And if he's a 97, he's tied with Derrick Henry. I have no problem letting the king stay the king, technically being tied for first. But you can put Derrick Henry listed 1. Derrick Henry is an excellent player, and if he comes back as healthy as he was last year before the injury, then he's going to continue to be an excellent player. There's no question about that, and he deserves to be a part of that conversation for best running back in the league. But there should not be 3 other players in front of Jonathan Taylor from that point. Jonathan Taylor has done as much, or if not more, than those players in the league so far, which were Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, and Dalvin Cook. He's done more than them. Just flatly. So, hey. Jonathan Taylor quickly is going to have a progression in the game, and I think he'll be joining the 99 club as the running backs will. I think Derrick Henry may also end up in the 99 club, so that would be really fun and exciting. And it's kind of lonely in the 99 club right now, so I would assume it's going to be pretty quick movement. There's only 4 players in the 99 club. Devontae Adams, Aaron Donald, Trent Williams, which was an interesting one for me, but Trent Williams. There was one more as well. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now, but there's 4 people in the 99 club, which seems like a small number compared to other years. And so I also expect there to be some major movement once the season starts. I think this might be Madden's way of actually hedging their stats and saying, hey, we don't have to make too many adjustments, or if we're lowering some of these star players' values, it's after the fact, not, we start them at a 98 and then move them down and make them look worse than they already are. Let these star players basically earn their way back up, but there's these 4 standalone guys that we expect to be perfect. And so that could be it. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. I think Jonathan Taylor will be one of the first people to rejoin the 99 club. I don't think Tom Brady will. He's the closest other quarterback at 97 than Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, and Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I think it's going to be kind of hard. Maybe Mahomes might, if they start off strong and hot. They'll get a little bit more credit for not having Tyreek, so he'll get a little bit more credit in terms of the value that he's provided to the team, so his overall rating will go up. Maybe. I don't know. But I think Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, those 2. Cooper Kupp should absolutely join that club pretty quickly. I think Trent Williams will actually be leaving the club pretty soon. I have no idea why he would actually be added. Jalen Ramsey in the club, definitely. So I think we'll see some club movement. I think we'll end the season in terms of Madden ratings with about 9 players, I bet, in the 99 club. And so that's kind of my viewpoints on the Madden stuff this year. I will be interested to see if preseason changes any of these ratings. But ultimately, I'm not upset about them. They made me feel like they validated my lists from the other day when we were talking about Jeremy Fowler's stuff. And so to me, that's reassuring and validating. And I hope to be validated with this next topic as well, because I think we need to see more alternate jerseys in sports. Like, I am a huge fan of when you get to play video games, right? Like a Madden, like an NBA 2K, FIFA, whatever it may be. You can adjust your jerseys. And the NBA games are a lot more fun because you can also go back and choose, the alternates from like the 80s, 90s, 70s, older uniforms. And FIFA, you really don't get to choose alternate jerseys. You can choose between your home and away. And in the NFL, you can choose, from a limited source. And I think that's really interesting in American sports, and sports in general too, that there's a limit on the alternate jersey amounts that you can, wear, basically. Unless you're the Oregon Ducks, who can wear as many jerseys forms as they want to, you can only wear very few. In MLS, for example, unless you sell 100,000 jerseys, you only get 2 kits. And if you sell 100,000, you get a third kit. I think every team deserves a third kit. I think it's really fun and exciting to have, your team be, a certain color their entire time. Like a Liverpool or an Arsenal who stay, white and red, or, utilize the same color scheme on most of their jerseys, most of their kits. But then you could also have an alternate where, it's something a little bit crazy, something a little bit out there. I like to think, for example, the Philadelphia Union have right now their blue and yellow, light blue and bright yellow jerseys, and I thought those things were slick as hell. I like those obscene colors in a jersey scheme. I think it's exciting. I think it provides life into your team, and I think kind of like Dion does. You look the way you play, and if you look good, you play good. And so I think if you look fresh, which I think the NFL has done a really good job of saying, hey, you can have another colored helmet, I think that's really awesome. And so I think the black helmets for the Panthers look really freaking cool. I saw one for the Eagles today. I thought those looked cool. The Jets look pretty cool. I like the white for the Bengals. I personally would have done a reverse, but I understand because they have the white jersey. But I would have liked to have seen the stripes be the white part and then the helmet be black. I thought that would be interesting, but that would have to go with the black jersey and white accents, and that's not something that they can do right now. But I saw those. I saw the Dallas Cowboys bringing back their white helmet. The Falcons and the Texans are doing red, and those things look slick. I'm actually really excited to see the Texans one. The Eagles are supposed to be wearing their alternate uniforms for that one, whether it's the Kelly green or the black. I'm not 100% sure, but they play each other this year, and they're going to be wearing the alternates. I think that's going to look really good. And I think more solid colors like that are going to look really good throughout the leagues as well. And so I just don't understand why more teams don't have 3, even 4 jersey types. I don't want to necessarily go to every single home game and see my team in the exact same uniform. I think it's sometimes a little bit more fun to have those alterations. And I think when you buy like warm-ups and such, like in MLS, like when there's new warm-ups, people buy those warm-ups because they're exciting and different. What if you could play games in those warm-ups? How exciting would that be? Additionally, if you allowed for there to be more alternates, alternate jerseys, you could start to have like a jersey culture and sell more jerseys similar to like, shoe culture potentially. If you could tell me that you're going to have this jersey style or type, even if it was a limited run, you couldn't sell that and market it better? I don't know. I like to think you probably could, though. There's so many different things. You could start to create colorways of jerseys. You could start to make, or merchandise, alternate color jerseys that aren't actually colored, because then you're providing those additional resources. I think it's an untapped market for the sports world that I think that they look at it as we're going to spend money on creating these jerseys, as opposed to having it just as an option. You could even make it more expensive. Hey, this is an alternate jersey that we make custom for you. But you have to buy it this way. Or we have limited quantities of it on hand. You may have to wait for it to be shipped or ordered. But having a third jersey alternate for every team, that should be an option. On top of that, there's a lot of times that teams play another team that have similar colors. What if you had that third jersey option that was a wild alternate color? Looking at Minnesota, for example, they're white and then they're gray. What if they just had like a purple and pink jersey for some reason? That's not going to be matched or marked by another team in the league, or then you actually have an alternative color that you could utilize. Again, I just might be crazy on this. I may just like to see more color in games, but I think it's really exciting when you see an Oregon game. You're like, what color jerseys are they wearing today? Because that's Oregon's culture, is that they are eccentric, they are exciting, and it's really exciting to watch them do that. If we had that on a more professional, wide-set scale, I understand wanting to have actual branding for your team, so that allows you to do that still. You have your traditional colors. You still have a home and away. You still have, everything that is, typical, but this provides you that outlet to say, hey, we're going to provide, we're going to come out in this different colored uniform this week. And it's going to be fun. That's the entire reason it's coming back, is because it's fun. We need more fun in sports. Russell Westbrook probably also wishes that he was having more fun in sports right now. And it's been a real weird week for Russell Westbrook, because there's just been a lot of crazy things that have happened. So first we had the Genie Bus situation where she was talking about missing Kobe because he always knew what it took to win, and it was all about winning, and he was not looking for excuses and just took the mantle. And then LeBron came out and was like, it's championship or bust basically every year for me. Win or bust. Like, we got to win. Then Russell Westbrook fires his agent, his longtime agent. And so that goes, okay. And a little bit after the news broke that he fired his agent, stories were coming out that Russ had his agent begging Sean Marks to pull the trigger on the Kyrie Irving trade to get Russell to Brooklyn. Begging him daily. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Okay. But then, shortly after that, LeBron makes comments on Twitter about Russ firing his coach. Or not his coach, his agent. And then, shortly after that, Chris Haynes reports that the three of them, LeBron, AD, and Russ, got together and are committed to winning together with LA. Except apparently nobody told Rob Pelinka that they were doing that, because there was a trade that was going to send Russ to Indiana, apparently, for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. And that trade is dead. And I'm not really sure who canceled that trade, whether it was the Lakers and Rob Pelinka figuring out that, Russ, AD, and LeBron are all on the same page now about winning. Or if it was Indiana saying, hey, wait a second. I don't think we're getting that good of a deal here. But either way, it's not good. And so what does this all mean for Russell Westbrook? I'm not sure if it means a whole lot. So, first off, I don't think there's any reason to believe that Russ wouldn't play hard for the Lakers this year if he was there. Additionally, I think Russ has always been about winning, even though he may be more looked at as a stat stuffer. In his head, what he is doing is leading to victories and leading to success. At least as was what he is trying to make us believe and what he is portraying to everyone when he speaks on it. So fine. That's totally fine. Like, let's just say for this argument's purpose, he is trying to win and do the best that he can for the team. I also believe the same thing with LeBron. So I don't think there's anything to worry about if he is there. And so then it falls back, why would you fire your manager in the midst of all of these trade conversations? Something had to have gone wrong. And so then it makes sense that, his agent comes out and says that he was having to beg Sean Marks daily which then puts a little bit of confidence, or lessens my confidence rather, in the fact that Kyrie is going to be a Laker. I still believe it, but now it's a little bit less likely. And so then I think that is why the article comes out from Chris Haynes stating that the big three in LA are ready to win together in LA. So I think Russ is a Laker next year at this point. I think it's more likely Kyrie is, but at this point, when I was 80-20 a week ago, I'm now about 55-45. And so it's moved me pretty drastically. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens this next week. Because, who knows? Maybe Russ ends up getting traded. Maybe there's a trade involving Russ, Buddy, Hield, Miles Turner, and Kyrie that we haven't seen that gets the three guys that aren't in LA right now, out of the four I said, in LA, and gets Russ, gets Westbrook somewhere else. Either way, we'll see what happens. We got a little bit of time. I think there's 85 days or so before training camp starts for basketball. Football is right around the corner. And so, we'll probably talk some more football before we talk Westbrook, but promise you, once there's any kind of Westbrook news, whether he's traded, whether he's played a game, whatever it is, we're going to talk about it because I love the man. I love the way that Russell Westbrook has carried himself and played. He's been a professional through and through in his career, and I respect all the accolades and what he has provided to the game. He may not immediately translate to winning and success, but he did have a lot of success in Oklahoma City, and he had some success in Houston, and even had a little bit of success in Washington, which makes me believe he can still have success in LA. So we'll see what happens. I know it's like the fourth time I've said that, but we will. And hopefully, no matter where it is, whether it's LA or on a different team, we get to see some fun from Russell Westbrook this year too. And so that leads us into our final topic, which has been our running segment that we've had on the show the last couple of weeks, as we break down each division in the NFL one show at a time per division. We have gone through 4 divisions out of the 8 so far. We have covered the North and the South in both the AFC and the NFC. And so today, as we ended in the AFC North on Tuesday, we're going to move to the AFC East today. As always, I start you with your key additions and your departures from each team. We talk about kind of some of the storylines that are going to be played out throughout the season, talk through some of those things. It's going to be a little bit more of an extended segment today for this one than it has been over the last few ones, because there's a lot more movement, honestly, inside of the AFC East. And so let's start with the division champs from last year, the Bills. They added Von Miller. Now, they did lose Cole Beasley. They did add a receiver, but ultimately it was kind of a quiet week or a year for off season. There we go, right term. It was kind of a quiet off season for the Bills in terms of what they actually did. It was a big splash when they signed Von Miller, but now that we've seen the contract, seen how it breaks down, it's not as big of a contract, and so it's not that bad. I think it's really more important that they lost Brian Daboll, their offensive coordinator, and interesting to see how Josh Allen recovers from that. With the Dolphins, they lost Brian Flores, their leader and believed to be a great coach. He went to the Steelers now, and then there was the whole scandal with paying Brian Flores to lose games, and a couple other things came out. There was also the conversation of trading for Tom Brady and giving him ownership stake in the team while he was still quarterback for the team. And then that didn't happen, so instead they went and traded for Tyreek Hill to go along with Jalen Waddle, and they signed Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds from the 49ers and the Cardinals, respectively. So there's a little bit of movement on the offense there, and it's kind of saying, hey, Tua, here's all of your options. Mike McDaniels, we don't know if he's going to be a good coach or not, but we'll see. We'll see with with Tua if he can get it to work, which he says he can. And so with Tyreek, with Jalen Waddle, with Mike Gesicki, Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, you have a similar offensive scheme and environment that the Chiefs had, right? With Tyreek Hill, with Travis Kelce, with Sammy Watkins. Except they also have two decent running backs. At that point, they didn't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They are working off of Spencer Ware. And so you got two decent running backs. You got a tight end. You got two good receivers on top of having Devontae Parker still there. So there's a lot of mouths to feed Tua. And it's about time we show it, right? New England's an interesting one. Because there wasn't a whole lot of movement. N'Keal Harry got traded to the Bears. But other than that, it was kind of run-of-the-mill moves. One role player in, one role player out. One role player in, one role player out. And so a lot of their stuff is kind of run it back. And it'll be interesting to see if they do better, they do worse, or they stay the same. And then lastly, we had New York, which the biggest, signings, I guess you can say that they had, came out of their rookie class, in my opinion, with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Now, I know I was like, why did they take Garrett Wilson in the last episode? But, he's still a great player. Just because I don't believe he was the right fit or the right thing for them to take in the draft doesn't mean that I don't believe in him as an individual player. I think he can still be great. I think he can still be great for the Jets. The question is are the Jets going to be good? Because when I go down the list, I say, Josh Allen has it with the Bills, right? But then you go Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, and Zach Wilson. And do any of those three have it? It's described as opposites of each other when you talk about Tua and Mac. They're both Alabama quarterbacks. One had a very high floor and a low ceiling. The other one had a very low floor and a very high ceiling. And so is Tua going to be better than Mac this year with the weapons? Also, if he is, what does that say about Bill Belichick? Bill Belichick always thinking he's smarter than somebody else. Is this going to be proven wrong if they end up, second, third, even fourth in a division? What would happen to Bill Belichick, by the way, guys, if they finished, say 5-12 and last in the AFC East? I don't know if he'd be fired, but it'd be interesting to see, that's for sure. So, with all that being said, the biggest question that I have is, can the Bills take that next step and defeat the Chiefs? I understand the Bengals did, so technically the Bengals are the kings in the AFC right now, but until somebody else from the AFC is able to win the Super Bowl, I think it's hard to say that the Chiefs aren't the kings. They were close in that game. Something happened at halftime with Tyreek and the rest of the team. I think that also led to some of the reasons that Tyreek has left the team, but just everybody is being super professional about it and not saying it. I think it meant something. And so I don't hold a whole lot of solace in the fact that the Bengals beat the Chiefs. And I don't hold it against the Chiefs as well that they lost to the Bengals as much as other, media outlets may do. And so can the Bills take that step? And I think the answer is yes, as long as Josh Allen doesn't regress at all. As long as he stays where he is. He can even outperform where he was. But as long as he stays minimum the same Josh Allen he has been, I think they can take that step and beat the Chiefs. And so then you got to figure out, is Mac Jones a real quarterback? Is Tua a real quarterback? Is Zach Wilson a real quarterback? Because that's a real question too. I know it's only his second year, but you are starting to put some pieces around him as well. You have Corey Davis. You have Denzel Mims. You have now Garrett Wilson, and then the two kids in the backfield. He's got some weapons. We got to see some movement from Zach Wilson this year, right? Or else we got to start having the same questions about Wilson that we've had about Daniel Jones for 2 years now. And so I say all of that to go ahead and lead us to our standings projections that I have. So in fourth place, the Cellar Dwellers remain the Cellar Dwellers, and the Jets, I think they're a 3-14 team this year, unfortunately. I think there are some positives. I think the offense is not the problem. I think the offense can stay consistently around 19 to 25 points a game. I just think the defense will let them down in some of those games as well. And so you may see some of these Jets games where it's 21-29 where they've lost versus last year you were seeing more of the 13 to 34s. And so I think that might be more of what the Jets do this year, more close losses as they continue to try to get better. In third place, at 8-9, I'm putting the Miami Dolphins there. I think Mike McDaniels being a first-year head coach is going to have some kind of value, and I think the team is going to look better than an 8-9 record, but I think their schedule is a little harder. I think the East is better than people give it credit for, and just the schedule that they have to end up playing, it's not going to be easy for them. I mean, one of the third-place games is the Broncos, for example, and the Broncos did get better. And so, with them having to play a little bit harder of a schedule, I just don't know if Tua has it all. If he has it all, then I think that record could potentially be 10-6, 11 or 10-7, 11-6. But I think what we're going to see from him, it's going to end up being 8-9, and not to spoil what happens in the AFC West, but I think that's not good enough to make the playoffs. And so the real question is, do the Patriots get back on top of the mountain, which is the AFC East, or do the Buffalo Bills retain their title? I think for the third year in a row, the Bills win the AFC East. They will finish 12-5. The Patriots will finish 9-8. And the Patriots will do this thing where they'll lose a lot of games in a row, and then they'll win a lot of games in a row. And then they'll lose a lot of games in a row, and then they'll win a lot of games in a row, but then they'll ultimately lose a lot of games. And I think it might be too many, but again, not to spoil anything from the AFC West, I don't know if they have enough wins to get to the playoffs. But what we do know is that the Bills will. And at this point, we're saying that the Bills are actually going to have a very similar record to what the Colts are, as well as to what the Ravens are. So, will our fourth division winner in the AFC also be in that same area? But since it's the AFC West, is it going to be a little bit lower? I guess we'll find out next week, right? So, as a reminder, Bills 12-5, Patriots 9-8, Dolphins 8-9, Jets rounding it out 3-14. Guys, that's our show. That's our week. Thank you for stopping by with us. I appreciate your patronage. Please like, share, subscribe, save, rate, whatever you got to do to show some love. We do appreciate it. We see all of you listeners. All the new listeners, thank you for tuning in and staying this long as well. It's been really great being here with you guys through these 7 episodes. We can't wait to bring you some more. Remember, we're going to be with KC Mito Gamer. Again, the gamer KC Mito, KC MITO, here in a few weeks talking some sports, playing some games. Give him a follow if you don't mind. Continue to follow us as well. We got a debate coming up next week. We're going to knock your socks off with some great shows next week. Hopefully some sports happen. We'll see you then.